Holler if you hear me, and welcome to tonight's edition of Art Uncensored. We're all here, we're all together because we've got something new to do. We've got something else to continue on with the world of doing more of the classic Marvel and DC heroes, those kind of characters you actually want to see, not the kind that modern Marvel is making and making derivative crap out of, and also the little detail about how when you have all these Marvel DC characters that are either race swapped or gender swapped or gay washed, the little detail about that is that when you do those kind of characters, then legally contracts with Marvel or DC means you did not create a new character, so thus you are not entitled to any percentage of royalties or ownership of that character. So another fun little fact that will get you thinking twice about the motives behind all these diversity hires and all of this talk of these bold, brilliant new characters, which is just slapping a new coat of paint that's politically motivated on an existing character. So that means not only are these, talentless diversity hires getting garbage page rates because they're new and they've just been hired, but on top of that, they're also coming quote unquote creating these new characters that actually have no real originality behind them. So thus they're never going to be entitled to anything down the line. And also they're getting paid garbage, rates. While ignorant ideologue wastes of life like Jordan Peele keep getting crap handed to them, even if they haven't had any real success for years upon years upon years upon end. I just saw an advertisement for some show that has Jordan Peele's name attached to it, and it says the final season. Well, if it's the final season, this is supposed to be so big and important. How come nobody's ever, I know, or anybody really out there has either talked about it or has mentioned this show, other than, of course, it being your typical Jordan Peele premise where it's a bunch of critical race theory, paranoid, coke-fueled bullshit made by people who know nothing about reality. So it's the kind of people who want to screech about the white man coming to take them, or about we have to punch Nazis. No, you need to get a dose of reality, you ignorant waste of life. And a little bit of the cure for the common bullshit out there is something like this we're doing right here. Yes, if you can get the camera to focus, my little piece of Emma Frost is what we're going to be doing tonight, the White Queen. Yes, to further piss off Jordan Peele and his 10 fans, we're not just drawing any classically attractive Marvel or DC woman, but we're attracting the woman who literally has the word white in her name, the White Queen, little Miss Emma Frost. Maybe in the future we'll do the Black Queen Celine, because remember, yes, Celine, the Black Queen of the Hellfire Club, is also a white woman as well, so that would further probably sending Joy Reid to go, Reed! Just as a fun little thing to do. I've done the Jean Grey Black Queen from the whole saga, what was the beginning of the Dark Phoenix saga, because the way that storyline was done, that was before Marvel or DC would have those, epic multi-comic spanning year-long events, or an individual monthly title would have a story arc that would go on and go on and go on. It was far more makeshift, but there was something where retroactively you could see where there was a definite beginning and then a definite end with the Dark Phoenix saga from Uncanny X-Men, I believe it was 129 to 137. And then after that run, the Chris Claremont, John Byrne team up only did a few more issues until Byrne quit to start writing and drawing Fantastic Four. Pretty much the beginning of that being the issue that involves going to the disco and introducing Dazzler, and how that involves the Hellfire Club and how they wind up abducting and hypnotizing Jean Grey and try to use her psychic powers to, for their advantage, until she snaps out of it when she's rescued and goes and slaughters them by themselves. And also in the beginning issue of that saga, we also get the introduction of our White Queen right here, as well as Kitty Pryde. Yes, character who then became a real breakout popular member as like the child of the group, because when the X-Men start out, they were all supposed to be teenagers or something, being into this academy and developing their powers. But the Chris Claremont and Len Wein and Dave Cockrum revival of the X-Men, they were all full adult heroes by then, like the new ones they brought in and the classic original 5 X-Men that they still had involved. Another new characters that came in, but the initial concept of it being, kids being brought together to train to harness their powers and all that. Kitty Pryde was the first real reintroduction to that concept. And also, not to mention when it comes to the details of, this character has this religious preference, or this character has this skin color, or whatever. The Chris Claremont X-Men introduced all of that, but actually did it where that's a part, but not the whole of that character's importance. Like there was when they started out with the giant-sized X-Men to bring them back, Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum and Len Wein made sure, okay, let's have the X-Men be international. So let's have, someone from Africa, and we'll also have an Indian, and we'll have I believe Banshee was eventually introduced so that there'd be something from Scotland, and Wolverine was added into the team because Canada. So they wanted that or of course Colossus being the Russian character. And but that was not entirely what built around them. Like, it was something in there, but Colossus wasn't just entirely, oh, he's Russian. Yes, that was a part of his backstory. Or when he would speak to the X-Men, he would always say Tovarsh, because Russian for friend or comrade, I think, is the more direct translation because of his Soviet upbringing. So he'd say Tovarsh, or Nightcrawler also, when he would say Mein Gott, that being German. If the characters spoke multiple languages, there would be like a little reflex expression would be something in their native language. And with Kitty Pryde, it was that she was Jewish. And her very first appearance we see, she has a little Star of David necklace. In case you want to know why, when Ardian Syaf did issues of the X-Men, he did that one little panel where the first explicitly Jewish X-Men character is composed in a way where her head is right next to a sign that says jewelry, so that her ear and hair obscures the Ulri part, so you see Jew. That I mentioned, Ardian Syaf also incorporated a panel where the Colossus is wearing a shirt with a chapter and verse code to the Quran telling you to never accept the Christians and Jews as friends because they are the enemy, and kill them where you see them. Non-belief is worse than death. Yeah, just in case, compared to who they're hiring now versus the kind of people who they were hiring back then and what their priorities really were. Just, Or my father also has the proper pronunciation for that word, which is something that my fellow fans of the Claremont years of X-Men would say. Yes, my father has a correction. It's a Tavadish, and it also means friend in Polish. Well, then there must be a little language mix-up then, and Chris Claremont didn't know what the proper sources were when he okay, something Russian, and I'm guessing he found a phrase book, or he explained something to someone he didn't quite know the full materials about, so he says Tavarish, which he's thinking, oh yeah, because Colossus is the Russian character, let's have him say something Russian, which I know he got that wrong. But honestly, those languages, it can be more easily understandable to confuse which origin from where. Like with the opposite of Mein Gott, the German phrase that Nightcrawler would say, where, it's a little harder to confuse German with another language, you would have to say. And, Instant Karma saying R.I.P. John Lennon. I'm guessing today it's something to do with John Lennon, I think the anniversary of his death or something, because I actually have got football on right now, Thursday Night Football, and of course, the big famous moment of when he was the first real public announcement of him being shot was when it was a broadcast of Monday Night Football was happening, and then someone called into Howard Cosell on the phone in the announcer's box, and then over live on the air, he announced that John Lennon had been shot and killed. He was shot 6 times, and he was dead. Or, well, Instant Karma says he was killed on the 8th. So, yes, yesterday was Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. So that today, yes, it would exactly be now. All right, 1980. So 42nd anniversary. Another big thing, though, is the slasher movies I'm really into. And the original My Bloody Valentine, supposedly, that's one of those that was notorious for being a hit popular slasher film that got a bunch of censorship from the MPAA, where they forced them to either completely cut out or cut down a bunch of gore. And supposedly that was something where the movie was made and was first sent to the MPAA just after the John Lennon getting murdered. So that was when the studio started becoming more the association became more censorious towards horror films and trying to say, oh, violence infecting the world out there and things like that. So they really came down hard on the original My Bloody Valentine. I mean, the shots there were not seen by the public eye until I think the late 2000s. They found a print of the film with all the original uncensored gore that was put on a DVD release around the time that the remake came out. And although they didn't do any kind of remastering of the footage, so it's really obvious from what's the footage that they've had there and has been preserved and has been remastered, and then it's the original gore shots, because then suddenly it looks grainy as all hell, like the kind of 8mm, 16mm film reel they would show you in an old science class. If they had, instead of a TV, they would have an old film projector to show you some demonstration in a science class like that. where like a guy gets a mining pike like through the bottom of the chin right here, and it pokes out the eye, and you actually see the eyeball like stuck on the end of the pike right there, or other shots of someone like getting their severed heart getting stuffed into a Valentine box, or a gutted woman being shoved into a washing machine was another visual. And a hello to Relentless there. And here, Mighty Magic is in the chat as well. And Nick as well. I forgot to mention that. Yep, it's a little gross. But yeah, that's well. Then I gotta remember, that's you didn't see that until you saw the restored version later on. In the remake they did in the late 2000s, it was R-rated and gory, but not as like bloody, even as the original version in its censored state that it was when it was first in theaters. You do get a nice long scene of a naked woman running around like a seedy, like a motel, trying to run from the killer, and she's fully naked and trying to shoot him. Hello to Fisty as well. And yeah, Relentless and Fire Goddess 3300, Ziggity Zag. Of course, there's a almost. Oh yeah, Nick. He likes Colossus. He's one of Nick's favorite X-Men. Yes, I remember his power in the original Capcom fighting game, where each one of them has their own special power, and he does this thing where he just like flexes, and there's like some kind of magnetic blast out of him. That one. The sad thing about Colossus is that we still have yet to really see him done well in the movies, because you saw that one guy who appears and barely speaks in like X-Men 2 and then Days of Future Past, where it's just like an actor and we see him becoming metal, but he's not really much. He's not really used as a vital character on the team. And then with the Deadpool movies, he's just like a cart. They play him for laughs completely. You see him, he's always just a big CGI like goofball. Hello to Julie Wolf coming in as well. And here's Gelth Walker as well. Trying to see what else. And Mighty Magic, he was saying here in the chat, I work with a guy who was Islamic, and he told me a story where God brought thunder and heavy rain on a donkey because it farted. Okay. That's not the strangest thing, and when it comes to what is out there in Islam or in the Quran. You do remember also seeing there that Muhammad, the prophet, also had a 12-year-old wife. That's just a fun little fact. Who else is coming in here? I noticed there was a whole lot of people coming into the chat ahead of time, because yeah, the Tug ended his stream unusually early. Because now all I have to compete with now is EVS doing a stream where it's he's e-fapping Eric July having a debate with some nobody who's a critic of his work. Criticizing Eric July, the man with $3.7 million of crowdfunding towards the one comic he's done. Yes, one comic to his name, and he's already generated 3.7 more dollars worth of revenue than a Vita Ayala or a Mags Visaggio or a previously mentioned RDNCF ever will. So there is that. Yes, we've got the apparently now Gelth Walker is our etiquette coach. Listen, now Vanessa is warning us to not curse in the chat. Well, all right, but now that we're there, let's of course repost these babies, because with everything going on here, don't forget it's the Christmas season. And yes, even though this is only just recently made and isn't available, I still have other Emma Frost art up available in my Square store, which is, if you're watching this later, that's the first link below in the description. And I've also got the link pinned to the top of the chat and just reposted it into the chat, where my color stuff like this, these are 30 a piece. My pen and ink ones, like the one that we're going to be finishing tonight, these are 25 a piece. And my sketchbooks are also 25 a piece. And commissions are also available, where you can commission a color piece for 60, a pen and ink piece for 50, or a trading card for 20. And those are the last items in my illustrations categories, color drawings categories, or the trading card is the last item in my posters category. And those are 18 by 24 posters done in full color, so they're 200 a piece. And whatever you get only comes with a flat $5 shipping handling fee. Or you can donate. If you want to support that way, donate. Since the channel isn't monetized and yes, super chats can't be done, you can just donate any dollar amount you'd like to in the Square store there. It's the first item you see in the chat. And remember, if you live outside of America, my store can't receive orders from foreign addresses. So you would have to go and make your order or your commission via a donation. Just add up what you want in US dollars, include another 25 US for the international shipping fee. Your items will ship. Or, of course, if you just want to donate besides the store, there's also my Streamlabs link. That's also in the chat as well, and that's the second link in the description. If you want an example of my sketchbook work, here's my regular Thursday sketchbook that I do. In here, you'll see, if I can get the camera to move in and focus. Come on. Yes, there we go. That's this one that's been in progress for a good long while. Just showing you off a few pieces. You can get them to move in. All right. Yep. We got lots of naughty, I like naughty girls with capes. Now we've got the Phantom Lady, we've got Supergirl. And there we've got some other bad girls, yes. Extremely bad girls. Including a naughty little witch and Batgirl, looking very nice. And more recent ones like Barbarella, and of course Arwen from Sojourn, a comic I recommend from the highly underrated, highly recommended Cross-Gen Comics, yes. The Sojourn being the first comic of theirs I've looked into, but also now there's a Mystic is another one I have, and Meridian as well. And here, yes, this is the, once again, using the June 91 issue of Playboy. This is Little Miss Playmate of the Year, Lisa Matthews, and here she is being recreated as Supergirl with nothing but her cape, with her covering her heaving pendulous breasts and all her other little naughty bits where her babies come from. I'm not sure if she was ever had any babies afterwards, but I certainly hope so. It's like that's like with Kate Upton. There's one where I'm glad that, yeah, she's with naturally heavy pendulous breasts like hers, they're made for nursing. So she's a mother now. Yes, that's hot. Now, if only Alexandra Daddario could get knocked up before she hits 40, so then those heavy naughty nursers can get put to the use they were made for. And maybe also, give her husband, her father, a little taste. I wonder if then when it comes to the men like that who marry and have children with women that are all stacked like that, if they ever, they get a turn when their wife is nursing, like say, like I said, Justin Verlander, who married Kate Upton, or back when Jennifer Connelly was still eating and she had her first kid, the guy she was with there, have a little fun. Can I at least get maybe like a little glass, just like a glass of milk, and squeeze it in there? And we're Relentless. Yeah, that was like a couple years ago, but Relentless. Yeah, you're welcome for the. I did, yes, once send her a issue of Penthouse. I found, yeah, that was although that was I think like 2 or 3 years ago. It's been a while back since then, but I'm glad you remember that one. And either way, she's still a very naughty lady. And there's the Surfing Budweiser. If you like beer surfing. Remember, most surfers are naturally jacked, although they still, like to drink as much as they like, rolling up a joint. And here, let's go with a little bit of some party jokes. Let's see who's also the interview in this one, or at the very least, there's got to be the 20 questions. Yes, let's see who's the 20 questions, and that's separate from the interview, the big one they do with always with the 3 photos of the guy. It's always whoever it is like striking they're like trying to make it look like Meet the Beatles. Oh, well, I mentioned something about things that will make, they'll give people the woke, the strong case of the vapors. And for those more knowledgeable about what's going on in Hollywood, here's the 20 questions, and it's John Milius. Yes, the Oscar winner, writer of Apocalypse Now, who also has done extensive work involved in the scripts for Jaws and for Sudden Impact, as well as Star Wars as well. He did work on that, besides his own filmography, where he directed Conan the Barbarian and Red Dawn. And because of Red Dawn and its pro-America, anti-commie fighting stance, and his just in general being well known that he's a real big right-winger, of course, a guy like John Milius, who was school chums with Lucas and Spielberg and worked with Francis Coppola extensively, has directed less films since 1990s than Victor Salva, convicted movie Bob fan. We'll call him that. Yes, Victor Salva, a convicted Movie Bob fan or convicted Cuties apologist. One or the other. But that's what we know already. Yeah, you don't want to hire him to direct, but you'll certainly hire him to do a bunch of uncredited rewrite work on your stuff, like producers themselves acknowledging in a documentary about Milius, where the producer behind The Hunt for Red October was doing everything he can to try and get Sean Connery to sign on as the villain. And Connery's complaints with the script is that there aren't enough great speeches for me to have in the movie. But then around in those offices where the producer was, John Milius happened to also be around there. And the producer did not know, but he didn't know about Milius's filmography, but he knew about his writing skill. So he brought him into the office and on the spot asked him to go and hire to rewrite The Hunt for Red October to give Connery's character more big flowery monologues to make his character cooler. And when he said, "Oh, don't worry, Sean will get John Milius to rework the script to give you these speeches you want." And he said, "Oh, Milius, yes, I remember working with him. He was great." As in, Connery was starred in a film that Milius directed in the 70s around the time that his buddies Coppola and Lucas and Spielberg were directing Star Wars and Close Encounters and Apocalypse Now. Actually, Milius himself, was wanting to direct Apocalypse Now, or then it became the idea where George Lucas was going to go and direct it for him, but they wanted to go and actually film it in Vietnam when the war was still going on. And of course, no studio would back a movie that's going to go and try to make a shoot in an active war zone. So that didn't go through. And eventually it wound up getting made with Francis Coppola directing in, I think it was the Philippines, because the military helicopters were Filipino military choppers that in the middle of takes would then be flying out off of the set because there was some real military action going on. And the Filipino military called them in to come in to do an actual airstrike on some place. That sort of thing. That was one of the least of the movie's problems, was getting the local military involved in military equipment, but then they have to go and leave because there's actual military problems happening. Or the director getting so disturbed and distraught that he started heavily getting into drugs and cheating on his wife on the set with her completely knowing about it. That's a little... Yeah, there's a feature-length documentary all about the making of Apocalypse Now and how hellish it is. If you liked the Critical Drinkers production hell video on Apocalypse Now, you should go and watch the feature-length documentary called Hearts of Darkness, A Filmmaker's Apocalypse. That's a full feature-length documentary about it, and it is fascinating on just how much miserable, horrible shit was happening and was not able to get this movie made, and finally they were able to actually finish it, and it was all worth it because in the end it became this giant hit and cultural touchstone. So it was worth it in the end. And considering that the director somehow, despite all of the horrible stress and agony of that and all the other problems with drugs and drinking and overeating, he still is alive and well into his 80s, I believe, is honestly amazing. And Nick brought up something. This was something I rewatched recently, even though you're supposed to be watching Christmas movies at this time. But I rewatched the Francis Coppola Dracula, and yeah, Nick just brought up that out of the Coppola filmography, that's his favorite. Yeah, the Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Gary Oldman one, the one that if people really talk about it now, they talk about it to make fun of Keanu Reeves having a bad British accent in the movie, or Gary Oldman's weird hair. They spoofed it in both Dracula Dead and Loving It and on one of the Halloween episodes of The Simpsons, where they go to it's a parody of Castle Dracula, and it's Mr. Burns, and he's got the same weird bun hair that when you first see Gary Oldman, when Keanu goes to his castle, he's got the hair that makes his head look like it's heart-shaped or something. It's very weird, but that's only one of the few weird things about the movie's looks with costumes or hair. When we see the origin of Dracula, he's fighting and his armor, it looks like exposed muscle. He's got this plate armor on and it looks like exposed muscle with a devil horn helmet. It's strange as all hell, but it's all weird because they went and hired some some Japanese woman who knew nothing about Dracula, and they hired her on purpose because they wanted to have the people in Dracula look and dress in ways that had never been done before. They wanted to do something besides the same old slicked back hair in the cape with the weird medallion sort of thing. And well, they pulled it off. And it's also weird how it's not really a film that's as revered or talked about as much, considering how hugely successful it was back in the day. I mean, good Lord, it was one of those kind of multimedia successes for a film that's not mentioned. It was as much of a multimedia extravaganza as like Terminator 2 or Jurassic Park. It came out the summer in between Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park and got the same thing where you had a major A-list director doing this big budget production with all this hype where you had like big name actors at the time. It was a huge blockbuster, and also there was a comic book tie-in adaptation. There were multiple video games. Like I think there was a pinball machine and an arcade game, and like one game for every video game console out there. There was like a Game Boy, there was a Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, even the Sega CD. All had Dracula video games, like Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park had them. And of course, there's the one that gets revered is more people seem, in comics at least, seem to talk about the comic adaptation of the movie because it was drawn by Mike Mignola around the time that he first created Hellboy, and it was out of print for years. Like the only way you could get the Bram Stoker Dracula comic was if you tracked down the back issues. And it was, I remember it was published by Topps, the trading card company that got into comics for a while. And most of what they published was like licensed stuff. Like they also did the comics for Jurassic Park the next year, and also the Ray Bradbury Chronicles. It was an anthology comic adapting all of the Ray Bradbury short stories over the decades. And also that the first time I think there were ever any Friday the 13th comics, it was a movie comic adaptation of Jason Goes to Hell, and there was the Jason Leatherface crossover, and those have never been reprinted. So that's why I understand, like at Astronomicon, which is more like horror and wrestling related than comic books when it comes to conventions here in Detroit. And they're like vendors there. If they have comics, they'll have like that and Lady Death stuff, or like the bits of comics that Rob Zombie did for CrossGen. Yeah, CrossGen, he did like a Rob Zombie Spooktacular. That was one of the last things CrossGen published before going bankrupt. And they also have the back issues of the Jason, the Topps comics, and the Jason Goes to Hell adaptation and the Jason versus Leatherface one. And those have like bigger prices because they're smaller print runs and they haven't been reprinted. Unlike the Wildstorm Friday the 13th stuff, where it was like Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, or the Jason stuff on his own, those had higher print runs because it was Wildstorm, so bigger resources. So that's why you see more of that, and it's not as expensive. Although they still, of course, they'll like jack it up because Freddy versus Jason versus Ash issue 1 had that. It did the X-Men #1 cover gimmick where if you want the full thing, you have to buy 3 different copies of the same comic with 3 different covers. Because it was like X-Men #1, where instead it was 3 covers instead of 4, where you bought the 3 covers and put them together, you'd get a full cover of Freddy and Jason and Ash together, and it was drawn by J. Scott Campbell. Because if you remember, like after Danger Girl, then he pretty much, Campbell's almost exclusively been doing interior. And he's been doing no interior art pretty much at all. He's been doing almost covers exclusively since like the late 90s. Because he did Danger Girl, I remember, and then his next big project was he became the cover artist during the J. Michael Straczynski run on The Amazing Spider-Man for like a good 4 or 3 years there. But that's where the cover of Mary Jane in the tight top and the ripped jeans with her beautiful heaving natural breasts sticking out. She's got her coffee cup, and women online last year or so were bitching about, no woman can do that pose and it's so sexist. And then just to show them that they're ignorant and stupid and they don't deserve any place in the Isle of Man, those ravaging feminists, that Star Wars girl did the cosplay photo of her recreating that pose of Mary Jane in the jeans with a tight shirt and the coffee cup, and showing it, yes, a woman can strike that pose. So step in front of a speeding truck, Kelly Thompson, you have no value as a human being. And that's what eventually inspired her to do the cosplay calendar, and now the gaming cosplay calendar that she's currently crowdfunding. Yes. Yeah. Although one thing, maybe one she should do is next to do like a pulp hero kind of cosplay calendar, like, the ones that Dynamite does, like Miss Fury or the Masquerade, or Gelf Walker would be familiar with the Phantom. There was back in, I think, like the 70s, there was a brief like storyline in the Phantom comics where his girlfriend took over Kit Walker's. He took Kit Walker's place because he was like horribly injured, and then she became a female Phantom briefly for a while, like something like that. Like, dude, that female Phantom there, along with Miss Fury and maybe Margot Lane from the Shadow stories. Too bad though that Doc Savage doesn't really have like any like female like love interest, or he doesn't have a love interest that you can do for like the Doc Savage characters or anything like that. Or maybe do like a sexy female Doc Savage with the strategically torn shirt, so you see she's all torn and buff, because Anna with her biceps and her abs, but of course ripped it away so that you don't see the titties. You see like a lot of it, but you know, the nipples covered, something like that. I'd be down for that. Who wants to see that Star Wars girl do a sexy pulp cosplay as the next cosplay calendar? She did the cosplay, the general one of, you know, superhero women, and now the gaming one where she's doing like Quiet and Zero Suit Samus and all that. I'd like to do that. I'd like to do the next one, then like the pulp heroes, or do a specifically also Betty Page, the Betty Page from The Rocketeer. She's the Rocketeer's girlfriend. That'd be nice. Or I don't, or one that would involve Gwen Stacy, because I don't think she did that in either of her cosplay calendars. Like the classic Gwen Stacy, where she's the, you know, the sexy smart college girl who's a Spider-Man's girlfriend and all that, or the Spider Gwen, that one. You know, the one Adam Hughes has done some great cover work of her with the, you know, knee-high go-go dancer kind of boots, and she always has the band in her hair and the very tight tops, which I've drawn the classic Gwen Stacy like that, and I always make sure she's got her nipples sticking out like Kirsten Dunst in the first couple Spider-Man movies, where there's at least one scene in both those first couple Spider-Mans where she's braless and dripping wet. There's the upside down kiss with her heaving natural breasts and her nipples, you know, out, turkey's done, and it doesn't get mentioned as much, but the third act of Spider-Man 2, she's also dripping wet and braless, and they're also sticking out. Either that, or I'm guessing in both those scenes, she just finds danger. It really turns her on. Being stuck up with chains and about to be tortured by Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, it gets her crazy. And the reason she's so dripping wet all over her body, it's to hide how dripping wet she is between the legs. Something like that, maybe. All right. Now let's get on to the Playboy party jokes. Here's one party joke. How can you tell if a model is a nymphomaniac? She'll make love the same day she has her hair done. Well, it's funny because it's true. Yes, Helen, it's pretty nippy. That's why I'm not really one for like modern art house kind of cinema, but I did at least enjoy the, you know, Melancholia, which, you know, much like another self-indulgent, you know, art house piece of fluff, it was a film that, for all of its pretenses to being so daring and transgressive, really the film was made and marketed around getting a hot piece of mainstream Hollywood ass to go do a film where she gets nude, and the whole thing is marketed around that. With Melancholia and Kirsten Dunst nude in front of under the tree, or Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson full frontal multiple times. Don't bullshit a bullshitter, okay? I know this is you being the art house pretentious hustler kind of equivalent of the nebbish filmmaker who never got laid, so you got into filmmaking so you can go and try to sleep with starlets, or just see your sex fantasies, your fetish films get put out there. And the only difference between like an underhanded fetish filmmaker who gets sold as an art house genius like a Darren Aronofsky with Requiem for a Dream, where there's Jennifer Connelly flaunting her bush, or she's blowing Keith David for coke, or going ass to ass, or Mother, where multiple scenes where we've got Jennifer Lawrence in something low cut or braless, and it's very sheer so we can see her nipples, or she's getting her top ripped open. Because after she fell out of love with David O. Russell, and Joy wasn't getting her another Oscar nomination, she thought, okay, now instead of sleeping with David O. Russell and Harvey Weinstein, I'll sleep with Darren Aronofsky and Harvey Weinstein, and I'll win another Oscars. Until the reviews for Mother came in, and it turns out no. Or I mentioned, the director who did Melancholia, and there's Kirsten Dunst's huge tits hanging out there, or the one who did Under the Skin, and there's little Miss Scarlett Johansson nude in a black void, or just standing in front of a mirror, and there she is, and we see she likes it shaved. That's no different from like there really are no different from some like low like Charles Band and whether it's Empire Pictures in the 80s or if it's Full Moon Productions ever since the late 90s, where okay, those kind of movies that he'll do, and there will be, you know, some actress who will take her top off, or like the one film he did, Hideous, where it's a like a Playboy catalog model come Skinemax actress Jacqueline Lovell, where she's holding a man at gunpoint topless wearing a gorilla mask. That sort of thing. Yeah, there's to me no difference between that and something like Kirsten Dunst's titties out in Melancholia, or of course, you know, something like Species or Life Force, where it was a, you know, revered French prima ballerina as Space Girl, and there she is with her heaving natural breasts and her flaring hips and her beautiful bush just all out in all of her screen time, even though there's even though now you can see, yes, she was like a prima ballerina, but then you can tell she literally grew out of that once she developed hips and huge natural breasts. Or if it's, you know, like the one that Red Letter Media has made fun of, David Dakota, and yeah, if it's like a director who wants to who wants to see, you know, a bunch of hot dudes like shirtless or in their underwear, and there's David Dakota directing B.D. Cooper versus Bigfoot, and it's like 12 dudes in a cabin and they're all shirtless all their screen time. Or that one film he made that Riff Tracks did one of it on, Journey to the Absolution, where it's like some military sci-fi film, and it's like Mario Lopez and a bunch of dudes, and most of their screen time either shirtless and in tight underwear, or they're just in like very form-fitting clothing to show everything off, or even see shower scenes where it's a bunch of dudes like naked from behind. That's why the very out of context sex scene that Mario Lopez has with a young Jamie Presley, like when she was still doing movies like this before eventually getting into doing like studio comedy, and then My Name is Earl, where she got to win Golden Globes and an Emmy. And there she is, you know, riding Mario Lopez like it's nobody's business. And although that seeing that one scene on the internet porn as a teenager, very out of context, when then you go and actually see the rest of that movie, and okay, that now makes you wonder, all right, was this like not in this? Well, I can tell you that the sex scene where it's the lead with the hot lady, that was in the script, but then that was the director's idea to have all these shirtless dudes in their underwear, or a guy, or a long shower scene where you see a bunch of buff dudes bare-assed from behind. And Riff Chefs makes a joke. Oh yes, I did. Would that dude's ass get out of the shot in the background? Yes, I saw Private Steven's ass. It was a smooth, firm, muscular ass. Or what was that one? Oh yeah, the one I remember the Nathan Rabin made fun of on his My Year of Flops column, called Shadow Boxer. Yeah, the director of Precious, like the film he made before that, where it's something where Cuba Gooding Jr. is an assassin, and there's like a recurring theme throughout this movie where like nearly every woman he meets is like immediately lusting after him, to the point where the whole film revolves around he's meant to contract kill this woman who's pregnant, and instead Cuba Gooding Jr. and his adopted mother Helen Mirren decide to go break their contract and rescue this woman and their baby and raise the baby as their own. And there's a scene in the film that Rabin describes in the review where the woman is the mother of the baby is masturbating watching Cuba Gooding shower, and we see him like nude from behind. And there's also a scene where his woman, who I remember, Helen Mirren, is supposed to be his adopted mother in this movie, and there's like a long drawn out sex scene they have in like a garden. Yeah, that. Oh my God, that's when we're okay. The director's just there to want to see a strong black ass. Oh Lord, oh Lordy. Nick's asking, is that what the joke is in American Wedding, or no, American Reunion Band? Oh, well, yeah, I had sex with Mario Lopez. No, that's not that. No, that's some other actress. That's a different actress. If that were Jamie Presley in the scene saying, oh, well, yeah, I fucked Mario Lopez, then that would be like a funny little in-joke if you know about one of those TNA movies she did earlier on in her career, like Poison Ivy 3, or with the multiple appearances in Playboy before getting into like Not Another Teen Movie and stuff like that, where then she started to go legit. I mean, I mentioned before, I'm still amazed she was allowed to have a mainstream career, even though she wound up doing interracial with Michael Jai White in the the Jerry Springer movie Ringmaster that she was in. Yes, because that's like something that was like a long-standing thing in porn about like women in porn. If you did interracial, that immediately producers would immediately downgrade you and not want to hire you and not want to make you like a real star in the industry, which also that goes double in mainstream Hollywood. I think that's why Margot Robbie, for all of her, woke talk in recent years, when it comes to, she'll go and cheer about how, I've always been trying to push for the Harley Quinn Poison Ivy lesbian romance. But when it comes to the arbitrary recasting of Will Smith and the Suicide Squad reboot with Idris Elba as a character who is the same character in all but name, well, that you're perfectly fine with, because I bet for all your woke talk, you damn well know that if you do too many movies with the same big black guy, then eventually producers won't want to keep casting you anymore. And so that's why and of course, it also affects the black men themselves. Like, what's you ever see what was the most mainstream thing that Michael Jai White wound up doing after that? And this came out after he started in Spawn, and then Spawn didn't get a sequel at all. So then he has a part in Ringmaster where there he sleeps with Jamie Presley on camera. And what's his most mainstream thing? In The Dark Knight, a Nubian brick shithouse of a man who's been a trained martial artist since childhood, Mr. Michael Jai White, is being menaced by Heath Ledger. And the why so serious scene that was in all the trailers, there's scrawny little Heath Ledger threatening Michael Jai White with a knife when he could break every bone in his body with one hand tied behind his back. If you thought Ron Simmons was just pure ebony power that could destroy the planet with one mighty shout of "damn," try Michael Jai White, and he would make Ron Simmons pee himself and cry in fear. That's why he had to go and independently go and fund a star vehicle for himself, Black Dynamite. Oh, the world's gonna be all right when you understand the strength of Black Dynamite. Dynamite, Dynamite. Please don't kill me, Black Dynamite. Have some mercy. Mercy? Mercy? How dared you try to ask for my mercy, Turkey? I see you, jive, Turkey. What you doing to my community? What you doing to the orphans? What you did to Cream Corn? I remember when I was in Nam. There I was. I blew up an entire BC squad and going through the rubble, counting all the bodies. I saw this one little boy. The grenade I threw into that village. I saw that little Chinese boy missing his little Chinese legs. He said something to me like, "That's like the horse," some kind of cartoon shit. But I knew what he was telling me. He was saying, "Why, Black Dynamite? Why?" And now, I ain't giving you nothing. Nobody ever gave me nothing, especially the white turkey. So I'm going to take your ass, and I'm going to make sure when I send you to hell, tell Richard Nixon I said hi. That's right. That's right. You kill him, Black Dynamite. Oh, kill that motherfucker. Yeah, that's how you gonna kill that man. We gonna get the white man. Cream Corn, I thought you were dead. Don't you know I'm immortal, baby? People bring up Bones. I never actually saw Bones. I remember seeing it advertised, but never did actually get around to watching it. That's the Snoop Dogg horror film where he's, I think, like a pimp back from the dead in this haunted house. And also Romany Malco from Weeds was in that, too. That was like one of his early roles before 40-Year-Old Virgin got him exposed as like a comedy actor, and he was able to shake off being in The Love Guru by getting on that Weeds show. Although I haven't really seen him in anything since that show ended, which is a little, but I mean, okay, that happens to actors. Like, another big one, like, where is like most of the cast of Breaking Bad except for Bryan Cranston? I've really seen the rest of the Breaking Bad cast that have long-standing roles on there, besides Bryan Cranston, have real major work after that? No. Okay. The guy was his assistant. I remember seeing in like a bunch of like, Gen X related like commercials in the late 90s and early 2000s, and also having little bits in like teen comedies, like in Van Wilder. He's just like a random drunk dude at one of Ryan Reynolds' parties. Like, yeah, is like, I'm looking for Van Wilder. Oh, you mean the raddest fucking dude alive? And then at the ending, somebody looks at him and asks, excuse me, do you know where I can find the raddest fucking dude alive? And looks like, oh yeah, grabs him by the pool. All right. There's a 20 Pituitary brings up Kiefer Sutherland. Oh yeah, there's another one where like who else in the cast of 24 besides Kiefer Sutherland has really worked big time since then? Not really. And even Kiefer Sutherland is one you don't see as much of him. You see more of like TMZ making fun of him for those times where he was getting drunk in public. There was some photo where he's wearing a J&B bottle as a costume for a Halloween party. There's some other photo of him at a restaurant with his pants down, or footage where he's in a hotel lobby and he tackles a Christmas tree. It's like Christmas, he's in a hotel lobby, and he goes Brian Bosworth on this Christmas tree. What the fuck? Oh, here is a vitally important question that Fire Goddess 3300 has. Who's better looking, Ryan Reynolds or Hugh Jackman? Well, Gelth says Jackman, but that's probably him playing favorites because Gelth is going to support his fellow Aussie Jackman. And I actually found footage. I was just randomly curious watching the Olympics one time. What's the Australian national anthem? Because I never see them medal in anything. And I just looked up Australian national anthem, and I found footage of at this, I think it was like the championship game for Australian rules football. And it was 1998. So this was a couple years before X-Men came out. And there was Hugh Jackman singing Advance Australia Fair. So he was already like a known quantity in his country, but he still hadn't crossed over to America yet. And then 2 weeks into filming X-Men, the original actor they had cast had to quit because there was like reshoots or something with, I think, Mission Impossible 2. So he couldn't stick around. And then they went to Russell Crowe. He said no, but recommended Jackman. And then like one audition later, he gets the part. And then, the rest is history for them. Oh, yeah, Sir Ubi-san, I mentioned that earlier about the Eric July having the debate with some chicken shit critic or retractor or whatever. I got that. Not to mention also before all this, remember, this is just something that Eric July just dove into. Before this, he already was a prosperous rapper with his group Backwards that was on the Billboard chart in the Billboard 100. So he already could have just gone sticking with this career, but then decided to go into the world of content creation with doing his own, pop cultural, political commentary, and then decided to go and, hating what's happening with the comic book world, decided to put his money where his mouth was and go and make his own comic. And now that's it was not like an Indiegogo crowdfunding thing. What happened was that he started this publisher. He put up his own money with his own resources. He hired his writers and his artists and his printers and his people to handle with shipping and handling. And he already had it printed. It's just a matter of like, he wanted at least like a minimum of, I think it was like $100,000 worth of revenue from people buying this up, and then wound up instead getting 3.7 million. There's something someone else here is and we also got Ziggity Zig, Ziggity Zag, sorry. And Ziggity Zag, there is nothing wrong with white and black. The Oreo, or I say Fudgy the Whale. If you remember Fudgy the Whale, that one, the mascot from the Carville, the ice cream cake company, they do Fudgy the Whale, the mix of the vanilla and chocolate. Or if you go to Dairy Queen, you get their cone. You can order the vanilla and the chocolate swirl together, like Halle Berry. You know what you get when you mix vanilla with chocolate? You get Halle Berry. And that is just absolute perfection. Or at the very least, vanilla chocolate swirl me with Pam Grier circa 1974 when she starred in Foxy Brown. Which, I think I mentioned it briefly in the video today, but yet another female action star long before Jennifer Lawrence's brain-dead ass came along to state out of sheer ignorance and entitlement that she was the first female action star ever. Wrong, bitch. And that's just Hollywood. Let's not forget of all the female action stars that have come out of Hong Kong, including some white women, like little Miss, I mentioned her as Cynthia Rothrock, who couldn't get her. Hollywood wanted nothing to do with put an action movie with a woman who could actually fight, because of course my big not so theory more is like a fact that you can just infer is the reason why actually strong, real, like action oriented women, whether it's tournament, like full contact, point contact martial arts fighters, or women in MMA, or women like Olympic events like judo or something, why those kind of women don't transition into being action stars in Hollywood, because any of that casting couch bullshit gets pulled on them, and those producers are scared that they try any of that Weinstein shit and they can karate chop their 3-inch dick off. Why do you think someone like Cynthia Rothrock had to go to Hong Kong to Golden Harvest Pictures to go be in action movies over there, and she never got out of the direct-to-video market in her own home country out here in the USA? Little example why. Well, Lucky for that's probably another reason why. Yes, Pam Grier, ebony perfection, gorgeous lady, charismatic leading lady as well. But she was able to get some mainstream Hollywood attention and work afterwards because she's still an actress, or she also tried to be a singer. Like The Big Dollhouse was one of her early movies. That was before Foxy Brown. She was still in like either ensembles or in supporting roles, and eventually started to get lead roles, kind of like a female Wesley Snipes. Like, look at Wesley Snipes in his career. He started out, his first movie roles were in like ensembles, stuff like Wildcats or Major League, but then eventually started to get lead stuff like I mentioned, Passenger 57 or New Jack City. And Pam Grier, same way, like Bill Doghouse. That was when she was in one of her Lady in Prison films, but she also sings the theme song. And then there was Foxy Brown, and then Coffee and Black Mama, White Mama made her a star. That kind of stuff. Yes, yes, yes. And that's why she's the abject perfection that she was back in the day. And also became another real charismatic, interesting actor that then a trademark of Quentin Tarantino that doesn't get talked about as much as he likes to like rip off older exploitation movies and have a lot of like hip dialogue and monologues and those kind of references. Also is a trademark of taking actors that have been like discarded or fallen in favor and give them like a big role and really bring them back. Like the big one people always bring up is John Travolta's big comeback with Pulp Fiction. But also then the next film, his follow-up that doesn't get talked about really that much was Jackie Brown, which was all built on giving Pam Grier the star treatment that she deserved all along. But then after the blaxploitation fame, kind of that whole run kind of died out. Then she was reduced to like bit roles here or there, like Steven Seagal's first movie, Above the Law. She plays his partner, and she was good in that, but still far long away from her being the soul sister leading lady that that made it okay for white men to publicly hunger for the ebony perfection that is, beautiful black women like her. Or what was that one? Class of 1999, that sci-fi weirdo robot movie where she's one of the robot teachers with like her and Malcolm McDowell as well. But then that, and she winds up getting he pretty much writes the part, the title character of Jackie Brown exclusively for her, and that gave her at least a brief, like, big comeback into the mainstream. But still, it was brief because that's like a Tarantino thing where, because Tarantino's the big trendy hip guy, so we'll follow a big trend, and then you'll get to be a big star again because you were in this big Tarantino thing. And then eventually kind of dies out. That's why, once again, you don't see John Travolta or Pam Grier as much as you did, or Luke Perry, like if he hadn't died so young in that heart attack, like he had that part Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I could have seen him getting more mainstream roles if he had lived after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood had he lived after that movie was released. Or Al Pacino, also, there's another major iconic leading man, and you haven't seen him except in like stuff that gets released on Redbox. And here he is. It's a brief part, but it's still a memorable part for a really memorable actor like him. Or it doesn't seem to happen that much as well, but that's it's sad, but it happens. And it's not really a race thing. It's because John Travolta, as white can be, an actor so white, Jordan Peele's fat, racist, talentless ass would refuse to cast him, except as some alt-right stand-in for the Joy Reid fan fiction that Jordan Peele gets all of his ideas from. And then you have Ebony Princess, or more African Queen, yes. There's a ranking system. The ultimate, autonomous ultra instinct of beautiful, exceptional black women is an African queen. Yes, Pam Grier, the African queen. And I don't mean the Humphrey Bogart movie, Diana Ross before she completely went off the fucking deep end in the 70s with Est and all their other crazy shit. Like with the Supremes, yes, there she was. Or Aretha Franklin back in the day. We're going to go to singers. Yes, there they are. And then you've got Beyonce, who so desperately wants to do that, but you'll see her sooner really be legitimately accepted into that realm of those kind of singers. You'll sooner see her sing a cappella than you'll see that really legitimately happen. Because when Foxy Brown comes to town, all the brothers gather round. Or speaking of Pam Grier, also the one film, the lead role that doesn't get brought up as much as Foxy Brown when it comes to her prime as like the queen of blaxploitation was Coffee, which came out after Jackie Brown. No, Foxy Brown. And the big line that was in the trailers, it's her big line for the movie right before she guns down the villain is, "This is the end of your rotten luck, you motherfucking dope pusher." Raise your hand in the stream in the chat if you wanted one good look at Jennifer Lawrence's empty, brainless, worthless, talentless mind and body, saying how she was the first ever action female lead ever, and then just see Pam Grier walk in her frame and say, "This is the end of your rotten luck, you motherfucking woke pusher," and just ebony African queen slap her ass, just back, give her she's not worthy of the front hand, she gets the backhand. Ow. Oh, come on, what you crying for? Like Harvey didn't do the same shit to you when you went and put out for him on the drop of a hat? Or David O. Russell? Or Darren Aronofsky? Or maybe even Bradley Cooper, if you were going to allow him to join in? That's how much you want to bet that the theory out there that all the leaked photos of Jennifer Lawrence they were done and they were made because all those were her little tokens to Harvey as the little exchange for, you want to be a star? Well, when you're off on a set or you're off, some other place doing some press junk or whatever, and I'm not there to be in the trailer with you or on the casting couch, yeah, I want you, get your phone out and why don't you bend down and jiggle a little in this French maid outfit, or, take off your top and suck on your finger, or bend over and have some guy use his fingers to split your labia open like that. And or the one photo of her with her tits pulled, she pulled her top open, have her tits hanging out. And that's the photo I used as one of the photos for the thumbnail in my video today. I just zoomed and cropped it so that you just see her face. I purposefully chose that that was my mental note. That's that sort of thing. And like, you want to do that and you want to talk like that when a lady, yeah, you got all that out there. It's million miles away from, if you're gonna be that way, go and actually be honest with that. That's why I talk about the one award show involving like movies, entertainment that's watchable anymore is the AVNs, because at least they're honest. The adult film industry, the business, they're fucking dudes on camera. That's their stardom. That's where it comes from. I appreciate the honesty of the AVNs. That's why I'm all for that. I'd like to attend there. It happens in conjunction with the Adult Entertainment Expo. It's like the Comic-Con for the porn industry in Vegas. And the AVN started as an offshoot of that. And now it's something that, although knowing modern post-2016 batshit crazy woke Showtime, I don't think they broadcast it like they used to. Or now it's like, I think it's something that they do online. I'll have to look it up. I don't know exactly. Or yeah, you're going to be like that. That's why, okay, at least it's honest. Like, what's the difference between that? You got the naked photos out there and you're blowing every major producer out there to get yourself in the limelight, and how's that make you any better than a porn star? Or like Pam Grier back in the golden age, when it was like practically in her contract, it was like a clause. It was a shower scene clause. And I mentioned The Big Dollhouse or Black Mama, White Mama, Coffee, Foxy Brown. I can't believe I blanked on the title for a bit. Or another one where she was a lead in called Friday Foster, where it wasn't just that she had a "I will always do nudity" clause. It's always a "I will do a shower scene" clause. All of those movies, she has a shower scene in them, and including Friday Foster, where it's all the more weird because she has this shower scene right as Carl Weathers is breaking into her home to try and kill her. Because she's like a photojournalist and she took some incriminating photos of some gangsters, and there's people involved that want to try to gun her down. And Carl Weathers, a pre-Rocky Carl Weathers, is the assassin. Yeah, I'd recommend it. It's a pretty entertaining film, Friday Foster. Wait, beyond beyond her ebony perfection there with being there in the shower and her naturally beautiful, pendulous Kate Upton or Alexandra Daddario like heaving natural breasts, or the white girl from that show Euphoria, Sydney Sweeney, that one, who's also done tons upon tons of topless scenes in like almost everything she's been in. And I saw some quote of her saying I'm not tired of doing nude. I'm not going to slow down doing nude scenes. Well, yeah, that's because now she's 24 and now she's one of the hot new starlets like Anya Taylor-Joy that Hollywood's going to play with and revere. And then let's see what's going to happen with her after turning 30 or 35 or 40, when she winds up she's already close to the wrong side of 25. So she's got another year before she's too old for Leo. Then, yeah, it would not surprise me if she becomes another one like a Scarlett Johansson or Charlize Theron, who just becomes a sentient pile of bitterness and invective on how they prostituted themselves for the stardom, and now they're not the starlet anymore, and they're mad and embittered by it, so now they're just going to go and either be professional victim or a complete hypocritical brain-dead activist. Like, yeah, Charlize Theron, or and all the talks about, oh, how these men treated me like this or that, when, lady, have you seen any of the movies you were in? You who said no to starring in Showgirls because you didn't like the nudity, only to agree to be in The Devil's Advocate, involving a scene where you are full frontal naked, covered in cuts and blood after Al Pacino raped you. Really? Yeah, I kind of find your whole victim story a little hard to believe there, dipshit. It's a, I heard the same thing I mentioned before with, now ScarJo has a problem with Iron Man 2 and her entrance there, and yeah, her very first scene, and we get a nice little hologram touchscreen of her resume as a secretary seems to be confused with the Victoria's Secret catalog, except she's the only model in the catalog. Yes, and I recently remembered Devil's Advocate because of I stumbled across the Hack the Movies episode about the Devil's Advocate, and that's actually one where I never watched it. I just remember seeing parts of it because I remember when like TBS they would do that thing where a couple years after some big studio movie came out, they would hype up the world broadcast premiere. And I remember seeing it advertised for like several weeks of the world broadcast premiere of The Devil's Advocate, and they show there's all the Al Pacino screaming. There's the terrible Southern accent. Whenever Keanu would try an accent, it was always terrible. If it was the Southern drawl he tries in Devil's Advocate, or his British accent in Dracula, or when he played Buddha and Little Buddha and he tries to have an accent there, but you can't really define what it is. And Al Pacino sticks his finger in the holy water and it makes it boil. Of course, though, in that version, it's world broadcast premiere on TBS. So of course, we don't see the multiple Charlize Theron nude and sex scenes. Well, so that's a disappointment. But and I remember only watching a bit of it. I remember from when I watched it was some scene where like a couple of Al Pacino's like secretaries are out shopping with Charlize Theron, and one of them, their face turns into like a devil face for a second while looking right at Theron to fuck with her head. That's all I remember of the movie. Like, when it comes to people since then, like when Pacino appeared on Inside the Actors Studio, or the Hack the Movies review of it, or other movies or other TV shows or channels referencing the movie, and it's usually like the Al Pacino monologue at the end about he's an absentee landlord, or oh hey, she's ovulating. And Keanu's half-sister is there on the altar waiting. She's ovulating and waiting for her Keanu half-brother man sauce to make her pregnant. Nick, I actually did see Insomnia, but that was like a long time ago. But I do remember, I know that was the Christopher Nolan movie that got him the job of directing Batman Begins, and the big shock of Robin Williams playing like a psychopath. He's like a psychotic murderer, and Al Pacino is trying to investigate him and track him down, but also, it's in like a certain part of Alaska where the sun never sets. So he's going through insomnia while going through this this terrible case of trying to stop Robin Williams. And it was like the biggest, I think it was like between her first and second Oscar wins, that Hilary Swank was in that, and that was like the best role that she could get before winning another Oscar. And yes, Robin Williams is a psychopath. Well, he was also in that 1 hour photo around that time. So that was like a thing with Williams where suddenly he really was wanting to go extreme against type and play crazy people. Not just like, oh, I want to show I'm a dramatic actor. It was like full on, no. I want to go against type. I don't want to be a funny man, but now I'll go into like an extreme measure with it and do roll like 1 hour photo where there's a whole nightmare scene where he imagines blood like just gushing out of his eyes, or he finds that the father of this one suburban family that he's been stalking and secretly been making copies of their photos for himself to collect. He finds the father's cheating, and that's when he confronts the father and the mistress in their hotel room with a big knife. I do remember that. Yes, that was a thing with my mother. She would movies with nudity in it, she would get offended by or didn't want me to see that. Like I remember her grabbing the remote out of my hand to turn off Roadhouse, but 1 hour photo where you have a homicidal Robin Williams, she was okay with me watching that. Yes, and even I remember even vividly seeing the scenes of him having nightmares about blood gushing out of his eyes and mouth, or when he's threatening the father of this family and the mistress with a bayonet in their hotel room. That, or the bit where around the end he gets arrested and he's being interrogated, and he then goes into the backstory about him being physically and sexually abused as a child. Yeah, that's all okay. All right, but Roadhouse, or I think it was had to do with when this one broadcast of Roadhouse on TBS. It included like a bikini contest at like some motorcycle rally or something, and that's like, no, you're not gonna watch that fucking shit. Here, Silence of the Lambs. Yes, I do remember that. It was one Halloween. I was watching that dopey Howard Stern produced parody of a Baywatch called Son of the Beach. She literally took the remote out of my hand and changed it to Silence of the Lambs in the middle of the scene when Lecter is escaping and he bites the one man's nose off and beats him to death with his own club. And then he kills the other guy by ripping his skin off his face and wearing it and his police uniform like a mask. And the dude he beat with the nightstick, he like fillets and has hanging up on the railing. Yeah, that's okay. Okay. And of course, Hannibal as well, with the Gary Oldman training the boars to devour Hannibal Lecter after he captures him, and Ray Liotta getting the top of his skull cut open and being spoon-fed his own brain by Mr. Hopkins in front of Clarice. Yes, that was good. Yes. Not to mention, it's also the film that explicitly shows a little kid being unwittingly spoon-fed human brains. That's the ending when Lecter escapes. He's on the plane, and there's like the one little boy there talking to him, and he has the leftovers of Ray Liotta's brain in a Dean and DeLuca box. And he goes, "Oh," he asks him, "What's that?" pointing to the brain, and he takes a spoon and feeds it to the boy. Yes, I remember that. And like last line is, "Oh, well, your mother's quite a smart woman like mine was. My mother herself also told me it's always important to try new things," as he's giving the boy the human brain. Okay, that's far above board. And of course, for anybody who remembers, yeah, Hannibal's like really depraved and messed up the movie, but that is severely like restructured and watered down compared to the totally fucked up novel that involves the Gary Oldman character having a lesbian bodybuilder sister who tries to get a male heir to get her part of the family inheritance by sodomizing Gary Oldman with his character with a cattle prod, then taking his electric eel, shoving it down his throat so it winds up ripping its way out of his stomach like the chest burster. Stealing the sperm so her and her lesbian girlfriend can go and get the girlfriend pregnant to have a male heir. And we did wind up seeing that character in the Hannibal TV show with the villain from Casino Royale is in the Hannibal part, instead of as she is in the book, which of course, knowing modern Hollywood, if that had been done like in like the last couple years, they would have, if Cannibal had been produced, they probably would have purposefully done and applaud themselves big virtue signal for having lesbian bodybuilder who's going to destroy the patriarchy as a character. But instead, on the Hannibal show, as it was made, it's Catherine Isabel, the main girl from Ginger Snaps. She's the one that gets the werewolf bite and starts mutating and becoming the freaky, horny werewolf girl that then devours everyone until her sister just, ends her with the injection. Yes. That's sort of a... Here's that. It would be Nick says it would be funny if she thought she was turning the channel, the Cartoon Network, and left the room. Instead, it was Silence of the Lambs. No. She was there in the room, and when she changed the channel, so yeah, she completely was aware that it's Silence of the Lambs. Yes. Maybe because it was okay because if you remember in that scene when Lecter escapes, we also get another shot of that sketch he did of Jodie Foster holding the baby lamb, and we see the 3 crucifixes in the background. Does anybody remember that? It shows, they show Lecter and his drawing skills. In his cell, he has the sketches of Florence that he did from memory. And then later on, after the Screaming of the Lamb story, he we see another one where it's Jodie Foster holding a lamb, and in the background there's the Christ on the cross with the two other crosses of the criminals flanking him. That was also in the Gospel of Luke. I'm guessing maybe because of that imagery like that, maybe that's why it was okay for me to go and watch two police officers get utterly, completely slaughtered by a lunatic. Maybe also she had been a campfire girl, and that's why she was okay with renting the Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead. Yes, right down to the raped by a tree scene was okay. Oh, it reminds me of when I was a campfire girl. That's okay. Yes, oh doggy. It's like for the people like Nostalgia Critic or Anita Sarkeesian complaining about Sam Raimi being so sexist because of Kirsten Dunst and Spider-Man is always a damsel. They really ought to get a load of what happens to the women in Evil Dead. Besides the tree scene, there's also the one girl who gets utterly like melted into nothing. There's Bruce Campbell's girlfriend he dismembers with the chainsaw when she's unconscious, or the pencil in the ankle. There's a beautiful little gore shot right there. But that's just a little sample right there, just a little taste, a little sample. And also, since Vanessa and Rita Castillo want to hear this, pinche. Am I saying it correctly? Pinche? Yes. Now I'm saying it pinche. And Andrea's also been here. Yes. Also, because now we know about Ziggity Zag, and knowing that, let's also now see if Ziggity Zag can change his name to Black Dynamite, since we know he has the strength of Michael Jai White within him. Yes, there we go. Oh, yes, the original Evil Dead. When I first saw that, the same movie my mother was perfectly okay with renting for me because it was NC-17 and I couldn't rent it by myself. Yes, that was the one where the first half hour was so damn intense, I turned the movie off and tried to sleep and couldn't. Yes. Oh, Ziggity Zag is okay, so Ziggity Zag is not Black Dynamite. Ziggity Zag is Foxy Brown. I'm sorry. Well, then, when Ziggity Zag comes to town, all the brothers come around. So Ziggity Zag has the chance to go up to Jennifer Lawrence and say, "This is the end of your rotten luck, you motherfucking woke pusher." Then, or just go up there and say, "Now, oh there, Miss Lawrence. What do the five fingers say to the face?" I don't know. Slap. That was cold-blooded unity. What we need's unity. So that is a real song from Rick James. It's a beautiful song. It's also very brief. It's like a minute and a half for the song that was apparently important enough, popular enough to get for it to be made into a ring that Rick James imprinted into Charlie Murphy's face that then got mentioned on Chappelle's show and became this iconic thing. Oh, yes, and Nick, yeah, another one was when I would see it at Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or at Tower Records. When I would go to there, Tower Records in the movie aisles, I would regularly see the box covered of Maniac, which was the original poster of a dude holding a bloody knife in one hand and a severed woman's head in the other. Yes, that was one. I remember the first time I saw it at Tower Records, it grossed me out so much that I couldn't finish my dinner. I just kept seeing the image of that cover in my eyes, in my mind, and just, so gross. So gross. What is that? Oh, God, so gross. Yes. Where is it? Now, I forgot the signature on here. Maybe I should sign it Foxy Brown instead of putting my name. Because when she comes to town, all the brothers do come around, and, my God. There's those questions of, if you had a time machine, what would you do with it? Or what would be your first order of business, or one of the things you would do? Well, my access to time travel would involve Sweet Love to Pam Grier circa 1973. And DR, I love Tower Records as well. I would go there all the time. to the there was a couple of Tower Records when I was living in the DC area. There was one that was like a really wide, long one in a strip mall, and there was another one that was in this bigger strip mall that actually was this weird structure where it was on like a second story, but there was no first story to the building. So to go to this Tower Records, you actually had to get on this long escalator ride. It was like a long escalator ride in this building where there was no other entrance or exit but to this escalator where you go up, and that's where the Tower Records was. It was strange, but also that was the first time I think I ever saw McFarlane toys was at Tower Records, not at a Toys R Us or like a Walmart or a Target. It was at Tower Records. Because that was like when McFarlane toys first started breaking out into doing things besides Spawn toys, like the Movie Maniacs or things like that, or like Kiss or Chucky. You would see them in Tower Records, or at least that's where I first remember seeing them. Then eventually McFarlane got the sports licenses and hasn't let go of them. They've still been rocking on doing sports toys. And now McFarlane has the license for DC stuff, and all of the stuff he's doing is great. And now it's just a matter of time when Marvel should say fuck Hasbro and get the license for Marvel to go over to McFarlane and compete with them, and the perfection they're doing right there. That would be great. And now we see it's past that time of the hour, so I want to thank everyone for watching. Subscribe if you are new. Check that you are still subscribed if you are a returning viewer. And absolutely positively do not forget that the best way to support my work is shopping in my Square store. That's the first link in the description below. I just reposted the link into the chat right there, where my color art is $30. My pen and ink art is $25, and my sketchbooks are $25, and commissions are available as well. Pen and ink stuff is $50 a piece, color work is $60 a piece, and trading card art, that commissions, those are $20 a piece. And you'll find them as the last items in my color drawings categories, illustrations categories, or the trading cards are the last item in my posters category. And those are large, hand-drawn, hand-colored posters for $200 a piece. Or you can go and get yourself, you can also commission, besides commissioning, remember, whatever you get in the store only comes with a flat $5 shipping and handling fee. Or just simply donate. Donations are the first thing you see in the store, and any amount from any denomination around the world is accepted. So remember, if you live outside of America and you want to commission or buy my work, you would have to go and make your, you'd have to pay for it via a donation. Add up what you want in US dollars, add another 25 US for the international shipping, and make that donation right there. Your items will ship immediately. Or you can also go and donate via my Streamlabs. That's the Streamlabs link also is there. Donations are accepted as well. And as you see there, Nick's got a little story about the first time he saw McFarlane toys was the movie Maniacs, and he still has several of them. Yeah, I remember seeing those and having one for Arnold in T2 and one of Rambo. I wanted the one of the T-1000, but never got that. And besides that, remember, I'm going to be live again tomorrow night at 10, and I'll have a new video premiering tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and I will actually appear on camera for that one. Remember, yes, my Luke Flips videos, I'm on camera for that, so you get to see the beautiful hair and the beautiful face, everything about me that's beautiful. So remember all that. Take care. Nice to see everybody coming out. And remember, felines, slam it, lick it, suck it, and see you, Space Cowboy.